A big part of Security Guardian, or even dealing with security across Active Directory, is identifying which objects are more important than others so you can categorize them appropriate. If you're looking like the zero trust, commandments, you want to be able to secure asset by risk, and you'll see down here, different things need to be classified. So a big part of a zero trust architecture is in fact involved with categorizing your tier zero. So we have many customers out there already who use Bloodhound Enterprise to categorize their tier zero. It is a fantastic tool that can go very in depth down to the computer object level and show you different exposure levels. However, not all customers need or want to work with Bloodhound Enterprise. They may be a little more focused and just want to deal with their contract negotiations they have with Quest, whatever else that may be. So we do have a hybrid agent where we can do our own tier zero collection as well. Bloodhound Enterprise is completely optional, no requirement. So once we install this agent on premises, we will do an initial collection of different tier zero objects. I have another SC that has this without the Bloodhound Enterprise integration. You don't see any of the other Bloodhound stuff, but you can see we've automatically categorized a bunch of tier zero stuff, including group policies, groups, and users. You can see the different objects in here. These are the ones that are uncertified. And what certification really is, it's a level of governance. If I know what thing is, and I agree that it's at this state, I have the ability to come in here and just certify it. Yep, I know what this user account was. But this is intended to give the visibility to the drift that is occurring. We certify once, and then we can see how things are changing. It shouldn't be nearly as many different signals that are out there. So when I'm looking at all these things, I already have some certified tier zero objects that are out there. Now, when we have these tier zero objects that are out there, we can do something differently with them as well. You can see this account right here, for example. It's not certified and it's not protected. What I have the ability to do right now is certify it, which just puts a flag in the different system, but I can in fact treat them a little bit differently. Now that I see this, I've acknowledged that it's good to go. I can enable protection so we can put explicit allow capabilities to these different objects. In the back end, this will change it so we can remove the implicit relationships that are in Active Directory, and we can explicitly assign, rights to be able to do stuff. When you're dealing with a zero trust architecture, you see this term, validate trust explicitly. I cannot validate trust explicitly through my different systems if I don't see those different signals. And with all the relationships and the implicit rights in Active Directory, if you have another tool, a PAM type tool, or your IGA type tool already out there, this can complement those different toolings to ensure they have to go through that system to be able to make a change. Group policies, for example, I can assign a group policy in here. Let me go ahead and filter for all my different group policies. I'll do object type equals group policy. And now that I see this, it's not certified yet. I could certify it, but I can also enable this protection. So only the GPO admin service account can make a change to this GPO, and now has to go through those sets of processes as well. So Security Guardian, the tier zero categorization, allows us to do different things for those objects that have impacted, can affect the entire organization. And by default, we're looking at group policies that are affecting any tier zero objects in your user groups or domain controllers. And these are like nested members, domain admins, your enterprise admins, account operators, print operators, things like that, or any of the different groups that are nested within there as well. Did I miss anything, Jason?
No, you did not. But how about what possibly tier zero objects are we going to potentially gather for the customer with our collector?
It's these nested in those built-in groups I just said, but just like with Bloodhound Enterprise, Same with us. There's going to be an exercise of other machines or objects that we need to add in there.
Of course.
For example, your recovery manager server. I don't have it in this different environment, but if I did, I would categorize that. Your ADFS, your Azure AD Connect, your certificate authority. That needs to be done so we can treat those different objects a little bit differently, where they have to go through that explicitly allow settings, and it removes that implicit relationships they currently have. And what this is really going to do is disrupt a lot of different things that are happening. As people get into an account or an organization they want to attack, they follow the different tactics, techniques, and procedures, and they're trying to elevate their privileges to one of these different objects. So we are definitely part of defense in depth. We're making that definitely harder, and we're disrupting a lot of those different things as well. And another part of Security Guardian is even to just really stay evolved with the changing landscape that's occurring as well. And a lot of that really is more important around your tier 0 objects to begin with.
And we're not just looking at the precursors and the potential compromises. We can do schedule scans on other. So if you go to, say, assessments, and you go in and you look at these discoveries, right? So we're going to look at Active Directory discoveries to begin with, but you can actually go in and look for specific items. Like if you're a security administrator and you want to look for certain types of events that could possibly happen, we can give you even that type of scan of your environment. If you go to all assessments again, Brian, and say create a new one. So just filling this out, our customers have the ability, even though our product will look at Active Directory assessment and look for the precursors and the potential compromises that might be going on, we can use this section to actually do much more in-depth discoveries. So if we just put in here, select discoveries, and that's why we have that button there, automatically add discoveries as Quest releases them. We could look for, hey, persistence. Let's scan the tier 0 objects that our hybrid agent has collected. Let's look for persistence. What kind of persistence might be in our environment that we need to be worried about? There is many more other things that you can use this tool to scan for outside of just Active Directory and native attacks, but also attacks that are on the MITRE attack list.
I have a few questions. Go back to the assessments. So from an operations standpoint, I'm looking at this brand new customer. The assessment is irrelevant of what collector I use, correct? I mean, as in like tier 0 collection.
Yes, doesn't matter which one.
Yeah, this is all coming from this hybrid collector we have right here. That's all we need. We do not have Bloodhound Enterprise here. Bloodhound is still valuable if we're trying to get a little bit more in depth to like the local group memberships on some of the different computers and understand the different relationships that are occurring there. But it's not a requirement.
But step number one, we're going out. We're reading all this information from Active Directory.
Correct.
Regardless of what we're going to use for tier 0 collection.
Correct.
And then from a tier 0 collection standpoint, whether we enable Bloodhound or the hybrid agent,
doesn't matter.
Now looks at what we have collected, and it's going to provide us with the critical activity found in these assessments.
By default, we do the Active Directory one by default, but our customers can even get more information by going into the section that I was with Brian, and we can look for other types of attacks, pervasive attacks,
right?
The ones that I was showing before or talking about before. But yes.
And we can't have both of them running at the same time. It is either or, correct?
For the tier 0 stuff, this hybrid agent will always be running. But if this Bloodhound Enterprise is already set up, configured, and categorized, it's going to exclude out doing this level of collection because it's already done. Mm-hmm. So customers only need to do it once. So it's better together, but we can actually work independently to do our own tier 0 categorization. Many cases, a customer may be interested in Bloodhound as well as Security Guardian. We don't have to wait for other people, so we can be a little more agile. It's great if they want to get Bloodhound Enterprise, but we have the flexibility to be able to do it with or without.
And then from a process standpoint, we're going to end up seeing all the tier 0 assets, the group policies, groups, users, and then you certify it, and then you enable it. Doesn't matter which path you went through, that is the exact same process.
Yep, you certified. I agree. This is tier 0, which is human acknowledgement, because this should be a smaller number of different objects to begin with. I have a very large Fortune 10 customer with 0 people with permanent members and domain admins. That's rare, but that's what people need to start getting to. Starting to get to the different least privilege and things like that. This should not be a large number. Now, if you're accepting of it, this is where a human being, the system owner, historically it was the infrastructure team, a lot of those are moving into security teams, needs to agree that, hey, they have this level of rights, they understand that, and as the drift is occurring, either they accept it and certify because they know what it is, or they investigate. Or they can come in here, figure out what it is so they can make an informed decision and maybe undo it so it doesn't stay there from infinity and beyond.
Sure. One other question. So what is the difference between either going through the entire process through Bloodhound Enterprise or the hybrid agent that's provided in Quest Security Guardian?
If they already have Bloodhound Enterprise, you just do it here, get that set up first, and we get that configured. It's very easy if they already have it. They already have the different data.
Yep.
If it's just the hybrid agent, we install the collector, we do the collection, and all the stuff comes up with it thereafter.
But the results are identical as far as what's...
They're similar. There may be some differences. If you look here, see this object right here, for example. See how it's blank down here?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go ahead and switch right now to the one that I have Bloodhound Enterprise with. And I have some different drift in there. And see how when I click on this different object, there is more different data down here. See the session information? That's from Bloodhound. So it's where they're logged in. I can see the local admins. I can see the objects where they can control. Yep. This is the extra information that you get with Bloodhound Enterprise.
Got it.
Even like group policies, this is impactful as well, right? Which I think is of huge value. I can see which tier 0 objects are affected by this different thing. What is making it categorized as tier 0? I can see that here with Bloodhound Enterprise. We don't necessarily see that with our tier 0 collector.
Our tier 0 collector is also collecting more than technically the Spectre ops based on Active Directory security groups. Seeing their list compared to ours, we're collecting more, but they're collecting the information that their tool is providing, which is attack path management. So we're propagating more of that information here if you're a Bloodhound customer.
But with Bloodhound, if you've already categorized those same groups, there's usually a discussion when they do it, like your Exchange servers group, that type of stuff. There's a lot of relationship behavior there. They'll actually do it with the customer just to vet out so they have the understanding and comprehension as to why they're doing that.
Yep.
But from an enabled protection standpoint, a process is the same regardless, correct?
Yep.
Yep. You come in here, either way, you come in here, you find an object, you have a finding, I can enable the protection for any tier 0 object.
Yep.
And that way you can have different control. This is where it's complementing your IGA and your PAM tools. So this user, I'm trying to make a change to it. I can enable the protection, and I can only do it for this one. See, this one's not integrated with the change order stuff. This one is. That's why it can see that it's, actually pending evaluation. This one's not configured with the change order. So I'm going to configure the protection status to one of these options, not protected. That means change order is able to see it.
Yeah.
So these are not protected. So if I want to protect it, I can just come in here and do that. And that way it takes away the native rights that are out there on that different thing. And then they have to do whatever we had explicitly allowed. So this is where it can complement GPO admin, safeguard, active rows, or whatever IGA or PAM tool the customer may own. This works in part of their reference architecture of stuff that they already have.
Yep.
a customer who doesn't own SpectreOp Bloodhound, but owns Quest Solutions, you're going in, you're talking to them, what would be your easing them into this interface? What would be your recommendation as to how they should approach things?
Smarter alerting. You see something, you get to do something about it in a single pane of glass. So if it is a problem, you can lock it up or protect it, like Brian has been pointing out. And this helps our customers deal with the underlying problem and lock it up at the same time until they fix the underlying issue that might make it something that's a precursor for an attack or could be used in a nefarious way in the environment and might go unnoticed normally. So our product is making better sense of the data and cutting down on the noise.
But I'll even change that a little bit. Before I even show the product or visibility, it starts with a discussion. Let's understand that customer's understanding of what tier 0 enter the control plane really is. It's often asked the customer, do you have a tier 0 architecture? They say yes. Is your AD backup included with that? I don't know. And if I hear that answer, I know they're not doing it right. And we need to have a little bit deeper conversation before we get into this about why that is so important. And I'll even show the different history of tier 0. It's been advocated by Microsoft since 2012, yet still very few customers to this date have started that journey. If they really want to be secure and resilient, they need to identify and categorize those different objects that if impact can affect everybody, so we can put additional controls in place for those different objects. So once I have that done, and we're speaking at the same level, we'll talk about different assessments. If they have a good understanding tier 0, I may start over here. But if they have no understanding of that, I probably don't want to start talking about different tier 0 stuff right away. I want to tell them about different problems they may have that we can help solve. Exactly. So I may have to start off doing an assessment. And it's very lightweight we're doing. It is SaaS, so we have to get past the different hurdles to let them use SaaS. We've been trying to do that for a while. But once I have that, I can give them this information. Maybe this is a discussion point where they see that they have a problem, and maybe they should start addressing it by doing tiering and seeing what activity is happening in their environment. And this is the glue that's kind of bringing all this different disparate type technologies together into one. And then if I see something, I can do something by enabling the different protection stuff. Because just because somebody has the ability to do something doesn't mean they're doing it. So here's what people can do. Here's what people are actually doing. And right here, somebody was doing something. So I ought to put some protection, capabilities in here to be able to prevent that from happening in the future.
How long do you guys say it will take to get this interface configured in a customer environment?
Shouldn't take that long.
There is a on-premises component we install here. It really should only be a matter of 15 minutes once the on-demand instance is up and running. Yeah. I don't expect this part to be done. Now, once we are expanding it out to add in all the audit data and all the other stuff, adding this part adds time because we do have to have the change order infrastructure. So with that set in mind, what we will do is add that later on as a phase 2.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Well, one last question. So it sounds like an hour session is more than enough to get this configured in a customer's environment.
I would configure an hour just to give different time, making sure they have it provision offer on demand.
Yeah.
Some of the lessons learned that we had when dealing with Bloodhound Enterprise, double check that they know that this is SaaS. Have those different discussions.
Oh, yeah.
It is embarrassing when you get on site with a customer or you're doing it remotely and they think they're ready and then they realize it's a SaaS and it becomes a big thing. So be upfront about it. Don't shy away from the fact that this is SaaS. That is a clear differentiator.
Yeah, no, I was actually going further into the configuration and implementation cycle. I just wanted to see 1 hour to get this configured. And then does it make sense to go back in a week or later to revisit and see? Or once we're done, we see the value immediately?
It should have some of these different vulnerabilities relatively quickly, probably after it does that first collection. This does not take very long. I'd probably give it like the next day so it has a chance to go maybe twice. Right now it's doing, I think, every 12 hours, if I remember correctly.
Got it.
And now we can see if there's any changes already in the two different aggregates and then talk about it. And if we want to get the extra value prop, that's where they may need to consider like, okay, let's get some different activity, what's going on. And to be able to do that, well, that requires for a lot of these compromise type stuff, the change order capabilities, where we can see the activity and bring that different stuff together.
And a perfect environment for this is an environment that has change auditor and on-demand audit.
It's all perfect. That's a simpler engagement because they already have different data we can adjust. They already have ODA. We'll start getting this different data set right away for evaluation. That's why that is the prime customer. However, we've been selling working with change order for many years. It's not that hard to get into an environment. It is better when it's in a real environment, though. Right. So that is why we've been targeting those first, because we'll probably have a little more success. So there's less value prop. We have to get ready to see the full thing, right?
Yeah. One last question, not related to the product anymore, but why do you think there's such low percentage of customers who have implemented Tier 0 modeling?
It takes time.
The way that things are structured and a lack of staying abreast of latest changes that are occurring. Infrastructure teams historically focus on operational efficiency and keeping things up and running.
That's it.
Security teams focus on different threats that are occurring in all different systems. They don't necessarily speak Active Directory. Those two need to converge. And that's a big part why zero trust architectures, we're seeing a lot of different organizations put their infrastructure teams under security now, and that's slowly changing. Your infrastructure teams are your AD and your identity security.
So you guys think that this solution would help expedite that process because there's a lot of automation, consolidation.
It needs to happen, yes.
The only industries you're going to run into a problem are heavily regulated industries where they still have firewalls. And I can tell you from banking and insurance, you might still have to have that firewall between security and operations, the blue teamers, just to make a point of reference here. There still might be compliance-based reasons that an organization will keep the team separated. But from every indication of why they should really start condensing and making it single teams seems to be where most of the customers I'm talking to are making changes right now. The Windows team is a part. If you're dealing anything with Active Directory, you're a part of the security team. I just got on a call last week that was just like that.
Yeah, look here, plan for the future. You must continuously monitor and adjust current and future threats as they emerge. The world's changed quite a bit. It will continuously change, which is why these infrastructure teams and security teams are converging. How do you stay up to date with the newest best practices? A lot of infrastructure teams have a bunch of elderly people that have been doing it one way for a long period of time and don't want to change. You have to keep changing as the threats are changing in an organization.
Great. Anything else you guys want to add?
I'm excited about this launch. It's something new and really getting us in the front. And don't be afraid to talk to the security team. Embrace it. Let's start working and partnering with them and helping our customers secure their environment.
Great. Thank you, guys. Appreciate the insight.
Thanks.
No problem.